And lots of people won't pay attention to children because they're terrified of them. They're terrified that they'll do something wrong with them, or that the kid won't like them.
And this is especially true of kids, is they are looking for positive attention. They're looking for attention, period. That's their currency. They'll take negative attention if they can't get positive attention. And what they really want is for someone to watch them and notice when they do something that makes them a good person, and then have that pointed out. It's like, good work, kid. Way to be. I saw what you did. Here's what it was. Good job. They're just thrilled that their action, their small child action, was important enough to draw your focused attention toward. That makes them glow.
What are the most important things we should be teaching young children in school?
To play fair. That's the most important thing that you can teach children. Because the fundamental ethic, like the ground of ethics, is fair play. And children practice that while they're playing. And so a lot of what should be happening in schools is play by children, a fair bit of it spontaneous, especially when they're very young, but regulated by adults so that it remains fair, right? That it remains reciprocal. And you can tell that because children will continue to play a game if they believe the game is fair. When the game stops being fair, then it breaks down into squabbling and crying, which is what our games are breaking down into right now, right? And so then you need a mediator who comes in and adjudicates, says, well, you know, how about if you try it this way? Maybe we need to adjust the rule. Let's see if we can get the game going again. It's very important for kids to learn how to play fair. And I'm afraid that a fair bit of our electronic technology is taking them away from the kinds of social interactions that they need to learn one-on-one to know how to play fair. I might be wrong about that because I don't know what effect video games have. And the evidence that they're bad isn't strong, you know, and they're new, so we really don't know. So that might be good enough. But that, and well, it'd be good to teach kids to read. We seem to be continually confused about whether or not that's a good idea. But we actually do know how to teach kids to read. You can use phonics programs, and I believe computers could speed that along substantially. It'd be good to teach them to read. It's good to teach them to write. It's good to encourage them, you know. That's another thing. So, what do we do with kids? Let them play. Make them play fair. That's really important. Teach them to read. That'd be good. Teach them to write. That'd be good. Teach them to stand up and speak for themselves. That would be good. You can teach a child to stand up pretty convincingly and say something intelligent in about 15 minutes if you do it carefully. And it almost never happens in school. It's really quite appalling. So that's another thing you can do for your kids, is get them to stand up and say something, and you know, not like this, while talking to the floor and barely able to hear, you know, so that people have to strain and strive to hear them, but to stand up and to say something. And you can tell them, well, stand up a little more, you know, put your shoulders back a little more volume so I can hear you. It can be a little game. God, they learn that so fast you can hardly believe it. And I don't know why they're not taught that. I think because people are afraid of competence. And so they're afraid to teach kids to be competent. And so we don't. And they kind of have to learn it on their own. And that's unfortunate, let's say.
And so partly what you're doing by attending to your child constantly is noticing where they are in the construction of this hierarchy. And they start way down here, right? And so that's why you play peekaboo, for example. It's like they can do that. And you can, you know, you interact with them because you can watch, you do a little something, and if they respond, you got some sense that you're at the same level. And kids in playgrounds do that with each other right away. So if you see 2 3-year-olds together, say they're fairly sophisticated for 3-year-olds, what they'll do is they'll start playing a little primitive game with each other, like a dog. You know what a dog does when it wants to play? It kind of goes like that. And that's what kids do, and that's what adults do too. It's a play invitation. It's like, I'm ready, but you're smiling. It's not like I'm ready. And so you can tell the difference between a play fight and play, and kids can too. So it's an invitation to play. And so if you're interacting with your little kid, they got that play circuit. Man, that thing's in there like when they're from birth, I think, because you can play with a kid right from birth, at least something like peekaboo. And so you're on the same wavelength fundamentally. And then you interact with them and you see if they're following what you're doing. It's what I'm doing when I'm lecturing, more or less. I'm watching you guys and seeing if we're more or less in the same shared space. You know, and we want the space to be expanding. Because if it's just staying the same, well, you might as well play whatever you play on your computer. It has to be expanding at the same time. That's optimal. And so when you're playing with your kid, you put them on that developmental edge where they're undoing and then rebuilding their little skills. You know, you can do that. Like, I had this memory from when I was a little kid a while back. And I remembered I used to go over to these people's house with my father and my mom, and it was way up in northern Alberta, and these people were Russian immigrants, children of Russian immigrants, and they had a farmhouse way out in the country, way out by the way where the railroad actually ended. If you walked north from there, you'd walk until you hit like southern Europe without running into another person. It was way the hell out in the middle of nowhere. And anyways, they had a nice house, like a warm house, you know. They had 3 kids and they were way older than me, but it was a real fun, comfortable place to go. And I used to sit in the living room with my father and his friend, whose name was Nick. And Nick was a really playful guy. I really liked him. He was like my surrogate grandfather. And I don't think I was more than about 3. I'd sit there and I'd try to hit his foot with my fist, and he would be talking to my dad, you know, and my dad would say, "Jordan, don't bother Nick," and Nick would say, "Well, he's not really bothering me," and because Dad was checking it out to see if I was an annoying twerp or if I was a fun kid, you know, because it's a fine line. And so I'd try to hit his foot and he would move it, and I had this memory a while back, and I thought, wow, that was a good memory. And I thought, what is going on there exactly? And I realized, well, he was sharpening me up. You know, it's like I was aiming at something. You're aiming at something. You're pointing your eyes at it. You're pointing your whole damn soul at it. You're aiming at something. And you're trying to get your behaviors and your conceptions in line and organized so that you can attain that aim. That's what people do. You know, we throw rocks at things. We fire arrows at things. We shoot guns at things. We aim at things. Our whole body is that platform for aiming. And I was trying to aim at his feet, and he'd move his feet, you know. But he'd let me hit it now and then. And so, let's say you're a rat, okay? Because, like I said, a rat's a good model for a person. Let's say you're a little rat, a juvenile male, and you want to play, because you want to play. And you'll work to play, and that's how we know you want to play if we're experimental psychologists, because you'll button push like mad to get access to an arena where you can wrestle with another little rat. And so rats wrestle just like human beings, and they even pin each other just like human beings, and they love that. And so if you put little rat A in with little rat B, and little rat B is 10% bigger, little rat B can stomp the hell out of little rat A all the time. So they go out there and they have a little dominance competition, and little rat B is going to win because he's bigger, so now he's dominant rat. So then they play and they wrestle, and little rat A loses. And then next time, they both know that little rat A is the inviter because he's subordinate. So he's the one that has to go up to the big rat and go, "You ready?" And the big rat then will wrestle. However, if you repeatedly pair them, and the big rat doesn't let the little rat win, at least 30% of the time, the little rat won't invite him to play anymore. And that was Jaak Panksepp who figured that out. And that is mind-boggling. Because it tells you, like, there's an ethical basis for play that's so deep that the damn rats, and they're rats, right? Not known for their sense of fair play. The big rat has to let the little rat win 30% of the time, or the little rat will not play anymore. And even rats know that. It's so profound, that discovery. Like, Panksepp discovered the play circuit in mammals. That's a big deal. That's like discovering a whole continent. Like, that's a big deal. He should have got a Nobel Prize for that. And to see that that's built in, that sense of fair play, that's mind-boggling, you know, because that's evidence for the biological instantiation of a complex morality. Say you've got a 3-year-old kid and their room is chaos, right? There's monsters are going to be coming out under the bed in no time flat unless that room gets some order in it. And so you tell the kid, clean up the room. You know, it's a mess. And you leave and you come back and the kid's like throwing Legos everywhere. They're not cleaning up. And then you think, that's a bad kid. That's a bad theory, eh? Because if you want to have a good fight with someone and destroy them, then that's what you do. You don't bother with the subtleties down here. You just go right for the jugular. It's like you're a bad, stupid kid. You've always been that way. You're hopeless. There's not a chance of teaching you anything. right? And that way you can nail the past, the present, and the future all in the same insult. You've always been a terrible person. There's no teaching you, and your future's going to be exactly the same way. Then the only thing the person can do, if you do that to them, is hit you, because that's it. There's no coming back from that. You've boxed them completely in. So if you want to have a really unproductive argument, you go right for this. Past, present, and future, you're not a good person. Demolish their entire conceptual structure and expose them completely naked to chaos. It's like, great, you won the argument.